Hey there everybody, Christy Nickel here, founder of Lean U, where we teach you all about Lean and provide you the tools to implement it. In the previous videos, I introduced you to value streams, or all of the actions required to bring your product from order to delivery. A horizontal approach to how we create value for our customer. And we talked about walking your value stream and seeing where your resources are really being utilized. And we talked about this really being the cornerstone of Lean to help you figure out where these wastes are currently happening within your business. When you walk the life of your product, you're going to see those three types of work that are happening: that value-added work, or work that your customers want to pay you for, that incidental work that your customers wouldn't want to pay for, but you don't have an option, you have to do it. And lastly, all those types of waste that we talked about, sucking up your time and your effort and your resources and your material and your equipment and not bringing any value to your customer. As promised, in today's video, I'm going to lay out for you my 5-step model for how to walk your value stream. As I mentioned, there's a few things you want to keep in mind to make sure you're getting the best bang for your buck and make the best use of your time so that you can actually have some good results coming from walking your value stream. So the very first step is select a value stream to focus on. Now you can select a value stream based on percentage of sales, based on importance to the company, based on maybe you're having some real challenges in a particular value stream. But the purpose is just to focus on one, so you don't get overwhelmed by looking at all of them, maybe have some scope creep and then you get confused. Don't try and boil the ocean. Let's just focus on one value stream and make some really significant impact there. Most companies have numerous value streams, so there are a couple tools that are out there that can really help you identify how many value streams you have and what products belong to each one. So if you visit my freebies page on my website, I have both of those options there for you with an explanation of how to use them and some examples. So please visit that. Feel free to use those tools to identify your value streams, and then you can select one to focus on to begin with. So once you've selected your value stream, we're going to move on to step 2. Identify who should walk with you. Now, you can, as I mentioned in the previous video, walk the life of your product, walk your value stream, and see. And at least, once again, it's going to be an eye-opener in terms of what is really happening and where your resources are really being utilized. But you don't want to just walk it by yourself, because then you're going to be the only person in your organization that has this new view on how you're creating value, and you're going to have all these ideas that you want to implement, and you're not going to be able to do it. You're going to be like a little fishy trying to swim upstream, because everyone else is going to be like, what are you doing? Right? Because they don't know. They don't know the same thing that you do. They haven't seen the same thing that you do. So you want to pick a team. You want to have a leadership team. Okay? And the purpose of this ultimately is to see and agree. You want to see what is happening and agree on what you're going to focus on as a business. So rather than having one person in charge of this department, another person in charge of this department, and so on, and you're all working on your own improvement initiatives, and no one's talking, and no one's really measuring the impact to the business, we're going to look at it as a group. We're going to look at it as a team, and we're going to see what's happening, and we're going to agree on what to work on over the next coming months. So, as you look at your value stream, you are going to want to look at every function or department that your value stream comes in contact with, and you are going to want to select someone from all of those areas to participate in your walk. And you're going to want people who are able to free up resources to look at things and come up with ideas, people who will help implement the ideas, track the results, make sure that the positive changes are sustained. So you're going to want leadership people in all of those functions that your value stream touches. And you don't want to leave anyone out. So look at your value stream and really think about who you need involved to walk with you. Now, in some organizations, that could be 8 people. In some organizations, it could be 2, right? You know your business. You know who needs to be there. Just take the time to think about it and make sure that everyone who needs to be there is involved. once you've identified who's going to walk with you, send them the previous 2 videos so that they understand the same thing you do and you're all kind of at the same starting point. You all have the same foundation. So they'll know what a value stream is, they'll know what the types of work are, and they'll know what the types of waste are, so that you're going to lessen their anxiety. They're going to know what to expect, and they're going to know what they're going to be doing on the actual date of your walk. On to the 3rd step. Schedule the date and time. Now, first of all, this is often easier said than done, because when you're trying to coordinate schedules, wow, everyone's busy, right? Especially in an organization, the smaller organizations where everyone wears numerous hats. So be a little patient, try to coordinate everyone's schedule and come up with one day and a time to start it off, to kick it off. Word of caution, make sure that your value stream is actually operating at the time that you select to go down and walk your value stream. There's no sense in waiting for after hours, even if you think that everyone's going to be available, right? So you're not going to have any scheduling conflicts. Resist the temptation to do it after hours because you're not going to see anything. And the whole purpose is to see where your resources and your cash are being utilized. So resist that temptation and make sure that your operation is actually humming. Once you've selected a date and time that everyone agrees upon and that you know your value stream will be fully functional, let your employees know what it is that you're doing and what it is you're looking at. Because we're just people, right? And if leadership has never been on the floor as a group walking from process to process, can you imagine what people are going to think, what your employees would think if suddenly, magically, you appeared without any word of warning? Right? And in absence of accurate information, it's human nature, we're going to make up our own stories. And next thing you know, there's going to be all these rumors and people are going to be really anxious, right? And if there's no word and people show up, the next thing you know, people are going to start disappearing and suddenly everyone's going to be on a bathroom break, right? So just let your employees know tomorrow at this time, you're going to see us come down. We are looking at the process, right? So don't make them think you're staring at them and figuring out, oh, right? Because once again, in absence of accurate information, we make up our own reality. Make sure you know you're looking at the process and that you want to hear their ideas. And that gives them a chance to maybe think about it and raise a couple things that they might want to discuss with you when you're on the floor, when you actually conduct your walk. So prepare them mentally so they're not anxiety-ridden and scared when you come out on the work floor and wondering what on earth is going on. And let them have a few days, or at least, overnight, to come up maybe with some suggestions or something they've been wanting to tell you, but they just haven't had the opportunity to. Okay, so you've scheduled date and time, you've let your employees know what you're going to do. Now we move on to step 4, which is actually walk it. Right now there's 3 little steps under walk it I wanted to discuss with you to make sure you don't skip a beat. When you get your team together, first head off into a little boardroom or an office, and I want you to take a few minutes to talk about the purpose of this value stream. Now, generally speaking, if you ask people the purpose of a value stream, they'll say to make money. And yes, of course, that's what we're in business for. We want to make money. But ultimately, the way we make money is to get customers. And the way to get customers is to provide a certain product. And the way to keep customers and get more customers is to provide them the highest quality product consistently in a short time, when they need it, where they need it. Right? So the focus on lean is always around what the customer needs from us. So the purpose of your value stream is to provide value to your customer. And what problem are you solving for them? Why are you creating this product? Right? Start the exercise focusing your team on your customer needs. What do they need and how are you giving it to them? Once you've discussed that, then it's like, okay, now let's go see how we're actually providing that value to them. As a group, head out onto your work floor. Now, a lot of people will say start at a certain process or start at the end and work your way backwards. I personally like to keep it simple. And I start at the raw materials. Okay? Look at your raw materials and you're just looking at what's happening. Right? So you're starting at raw materials. What's the first processing step? As a group, you're going there. so on and so forth through all of the processing steps till you're at your shipping department and you're watching things there, right? The entire life of your product from beginning to end. Now, as you're doing that, don't forget you have people from every function or department walking with you. So there's nothing that's going to be kind of, out of bounds. If you're talking about the raw materials coming in, well, you have your purchaser there or the person responsible for that department there. How often are we getting this in? What sizes of batches are we getting in? How long does it take to get here? Look at how much space it's taking. How long does it take before it starts working its way through our processing steps? So you're looking at the technical tools as a group, right? And process to process, where are we seeing inventory stagnating? Where are we seeing defects? Where are people waiting because their machine's gone down? So we're looking at the technical side of lean, where those wastes are happening and where the value-added work is happening. Oh, we want to make sure that's done perfect every time. This is also a huge opportunity to start changing your culture and how your employees feel about the business and how they contribute to the way that you make your customers happy. So not only look at the technical tools as a group, take the opportunity to talk to your employees. You've told them a day in advance, maybe a couple days in advance, you're coming down. Ask them how they're doing. How are you feeling? Is there something in this process that frustrates you? I notice you have an error here. What do you do when you have an error? Do you fix it yourself? Do you set it aside? Right? Utilize their experience and their expertise and their knowledge and start trying to get that information out of them, right? So not only are you seeing the technical side of things, you're starting to change your culture and asking them, if you have an idea, who do you tell? Or do you just keep it to yourself? If you come across a problem, what do you do? Do you just kind of leave it for the next shift? Do you put it up on a board? Do you tell someone? That's how you find out, in conjunction with what you see technically, what's really happening, how happy people are, what's frustrating your employees. 9 times out of 10, if you can get your employees to open up and tell you what's frustrating them, it's also a waste. So it's almost a double whammy. It's unnecessarily using resources and it's frustrating your employees. So get them to open up. Ask them their ideas. But word of caution, if people are giving you ideas, make sure you document them and get back to them. Nothing's worse than if you take the opportunity to get ideas from employees and they're excited and they've taken the evening to think about it and no one follows up on it. And next time, you better believe they're not going to raise an idea again. And that's not what you want, right? So make sure you're documenting and following up on any ideas that come about. So that's it. As a group, what are you seeing? What wastes are you seeing? Engage your employees. Ask them, what do you think? If there's one thing you could change here, what do you think? Start changing your culture to engage your employees and figuring out how to best improve your processes to build your business. As you're doing this, I have a couple tips for you. Resist the temptation to solve problems. Once again, back to this human nature thing, especially as a leadership group, we are trained that we see a problem, we come up with a solution and we implement it. Boom, done. Try not to do that. Try not to do that, because the whole purpose, once again, is to get your employees involved. You don't need all of the answers. The purpose of this is to see what's happening and agree on what we want to focus on as a whole, as a business. Don't have to solve everything. And actually, it can be detrimental. If you walk out there and you see something, it's like, oh, we need to change this layout, let's go. You start moving stuff around and your employees are like, oh my word, what's going on, right? That's not doing anyone any favors, especially since the people who do the work haven't been involved in figuring out where the stuff's gonna go. It's okay to slow down and plan and then involve employees when you prioritize what you want to focus on. Just see and agree. You don't need to solve anything during your walk, even though it's really hard. It's really hard, especially when you're going to see things in a totally different light. And you're going to see tons of stuff. So, oh my word, this, and oh, look at that, and oh, we need to do this. And you're talking to your employees, so you're getting more information, right? And you're going to feel like you should do something right away. You don't need to. You don't need to. Because we're going to, in the next step, we're going to deal with that. And you have lots of time to prioritize what you want to focus on and effectively look at how to improve your processes. The other tip I would suggest as you walk the life of your product or walk your value stream is that you try and stay away from the word why. It just tends to put people on the defensive. You think about it. If I were to walk up to you and say, why are you doing it that way? Don't you get a little defensive? A little hair on the back of your neck starts to stand up. It's human nature. There is something about that word that makes us feel like we need to defend why we are doing something a certain way, even if we had no say in the process to begin with. So I like to stay away from the word why, right? The whole idea in changing your culture is to make people feel comfortable and to open up to you so you have an accurate depiction of what's really going. That's where the juicy stuff is, and you can really get down to the nitty-gritty and what's preventing your resources from being utilized to their fullest. So I like to use the phrase, the reasons for. Could you please explain to me the reason for doing it that way? Oh, could you please explain to me the reasons that you're doing it that way, or you're not clamping that way? And for some reason, if you think about how those words sound, much more friendly, much more opening doors to conversations rather than putting people on the defensive so that they don't want to say anything and they would just want to button their lip. So those are my 2 tips for you. Try not to solve problems when you're out there, and try not to say the word why. I actually try not to use the word why in any type of conversation or meeting or session that I have, just to ensure that I'm not putting people on the defensive. Okay? So, on the day of your walk, you've gotten together, you've talked about customer value, you've walked the life of your product, you've walked your value stream so that you can see and agree. Now what you're going to do is, as a group, go back to that quiet room and list everything that you saw or things that you want to improve as a team. So someone has a big piece of flip chart paper and a marker, and you just write everything down. Now, just as we want to be aware of culture and making people feel comfortable to give their ideas when you're out on the work floor, you want to be cognizant of that in the office as well with your leadership. So there are no dumb ideas. Don't start saying, oh, that's dumb, or oh no, we can't look at that. Write everyone's ideas down and try to use their words. Often if we scribe, we want to use our own words. Try and use their words wherever possible. And once you've got everyone's ideas down, as a team, focus on 1 or 2 things as a group. What do we think is our biggest bang for the buck here? Let's choose 2 things. What do we want to focus on as a business? This and this. Great. And you just have 2 initiatives that your entire leadership group has agreed are going to have the biggest positive impact for you as a whole, not as an individual function or department. And then you can say, okay, who's going to lead this one? Who can we get involved from the work floor? How do we come up with solutions? How do we measure the results, etc., etc.? So you've seen as a group, you've agreed as a group, this is what we're going to focus on as a business to improve our processes, make our employees happy, our customers happy, and a really healthy bottom line. On to the 5th step. Now, you've got your couple things to prioritize. You've probably got some steps already in place, people running off to get teams together and whatnot. Before you leave, you're going to want to select a date for your next meeting. Now, that meeting can involve another walk of your value stream or not. Completely up to you. I would recommend that it is a good habit to get into to always walk your value stream, because it's always going to set your mind on your customer, and it's always going to bring you back to the reality of this is how we create value for our customer and make sure we're growing our business. And then back to the room again. Now what did we see? And now what do we want to prioritize? So on the 5th step, when you're selecting the date for your next meeting, it could just be an update on the top 2 things you've prioritized for changing, for implementing, or it can be a whole nother walk and then an update, right? Whatever you see fit. You know your business, you know your team members and your culture. But it is a good habit to get into. I'll just get that in there. So that wraps up my 5-step model for how to walk your value stream, get the right people involved so that you're going to focus on some very specific things as a team, not as individual functions or departments. And start changing your culture. So you're not only seeing the technical tools of Lean and starting to identify those wastes and get rid of them, you're starting to open up to your employees and get them to feel comfortable raising issues, raising ideas, getting the most out of their knowledge and expertise that you possibly can. So that wraps up my 5-step model of how to walk your value stream. It also wraps up the 3 videos sent to you as a thank you for joining us here at Lean U and taking an interest in the tools. I really hope you found the time spent watching the videos useful, and I hope that you're already starting to figure out ways of getting in there and identifying where waste is happening and changing your culture as you eliminate it. We're going to be having lots and lots of sessions and seminars and workshops and group training programs. So I'll keep you in the loop of all of that. In the meantime, keep visiting the freebies page on my website. I'm going to keep lots of stuff, keep adding more stuff as I go, templates, little videos, demonstrating different concepts of Lean. So please use the tools, steal shamelessly, and share it with others. So thank you once again for joining us at Lean U and for taking the time to watch these videos. And I hope we'll hear from you. Let me know any of your comments and anything that you may need, any tools you'd like and you don't see, please let me know that as well. And until we meet again, make every action count.